Hi guys, as always, thank you for joining us here at Royal Parrots. I love having you guys join me in every adventure that I experience. Today we're going to talk about the Citron Cockatoo, the beautiful, amazing Citron Cockatoo, one of my favorite cockatoo species. They are endangered, and actually, the last known report a few years ago, there were only 100 Citron cockatoos in zoos worldwide. And I was lucky enough to find a parrot farm that has a beautiful little collection here of Citron cockatoos, as you can see, that were super friendly and more than willing to be in a video for me as we talk about them and learn some interesting facts about them. So let's start off by talking about where they come from. I'm going to put a picture down below. They are actually endemic to Indonesia. And endemic is just a fancy word of saying they are specifically from Indonesia. And they are one of the only cockatoo species that are in that region. They are actually specifically in the Sumba Islands. And again, I'm putting a picture down below. I have to go visit them. I have to sacrifice for my research and go visit them because these islands just look amazing. So they are specifically from the Sumba Islands in Indonesia. And as we all know, or as a lot of us know, most cockatoo species do come from Australia. So the fact that they are endemic to Indonesia is just an awesome fact. I love to find out facts like these, that parrots are endemic to certain regions, because it just makes you wonder why. Like, did a species fly there a long time ago and they adapted to the new region, they adapted to the new weather? Is that why the crest changed? There's so many questions that you can ask in regard to the biology of these parrots, and I'm sure there are a lot of answers. And I mean, this information just fascinates me, and it's research that I love to do myself, and I will report back on YouTube once I find the information. So again, they are endemic to the Sumba Islands of Indonesia. They are actually one of the smallest cockatoo species. Now, believe it or not, the average length of a Citron cockatoo is 13 inches. So that's just 1 inch over a foot, and that is pretty small. That's probably about the average size, a little bit smaller than a lesser sulfur-crested cockatoo. Actually, I've seen goffins, they're a little bit bigger, but now that's just a topic for another day, because once you start domestically breeding these parrots, the sizes can range. They are no longer their natural wild size. But again, that's just a topic for another day. So the Citron cockatoo is a popular cockatoo species to have, not just because they're small, but because they happen to be a more docile cockatoo than the other species, meaning they're less anxious. They are a little bit more subdued. They're a little bit more calm. And of course, anyone who has cockatoo experience, that is a great attribute to have in a cockatoo, because a lot of cockatoos do suffer from anxiety and hyperactivity when they are not stimulated. So the fact that these cockatoos are a little bit more docile and a little bit more subdued means that they actually have less circumstances of feather picking and stress-induced negative behavior. So that is always a plus. Now, unfortunately, there's always a negative with a positive. The negative is because they have a more subdued nature and a more calm personality, their word capability is actually average 15 words or phrases. Now that's an average. Now you might get that cockatoo that does talk a lot. You might get that pet parrot that talks a lot. Now, that is just a matter of personality, but the average word or phrase length for a Citron Cockatoo is about 15 words or phrases. And again, that just comes with a more subdued nature. And if you really take a look at the parrot world, that actually goes hand in hand with a lot of species. The more subdued and calm they are, actually their word capabilities actually become a lot less. So I personally have noticed that in the parrot world. I have noticed that the more hyper, the more active the parrot is, that their word count actually does go up. So one common question I get in regard to cockatoos is whether I can tell the cockatoo is male or female just by looking at them. And the answer, if you look up the research on Citron cockatoos, they will tell you that the way to decipher whether the cockatoo is a male or female is once they are mature. The male Citron cockatoo has a black eye and the female has a brown eye. Now, actually, that is not specific to the Citron cockatoos. That is actually a fact for many cockatoo species, but that is more when they are mature and their eyes mature. So if you're trying to figure out gender in a younger cockatoo, most of the time you have to do a blood draw or give a DNA sample of their eggshell or their feather to a lab, and they will be able to tell you the gender of that cockatoo. Now, the Citron cockatoos are known to have a slightly shorter lifespan than other cockatoos. Information shows that they are able to live up to 40 to 60 years in captivity, when the normal cockatoo is known to live up to 90 years. Now, again, that information varies. I have learned throughout my years of raising domesticated parrots that domesticated parrots do really have a shorter lifespan than the normal wild bird. So I'm always very slow to give that information to a new parrot customer, as I don't want to deceive them in regard to how long they will have their pet parrot, but that is a discussion for another day. Now, here's a not so cool fact about the Citron cockatoo is that they are critically endangered in the wild. Part of the reason is because it is hard to replicate their native home and breeding environments. Remember, they are captively and domesticatedly bred, but it is hard to replicate their native home island. It's hard to replicate their climate, the temperature, the plant environment around them. Now remember, these are all factors that help them to breed. So this is a species that is harder to breed indoors. It is harder to breed in captivity. Now, the other factors that contribute to their endangerment is they're the same factors that contribute to a lot of other species endangerments, and that is the loss of habitat due to environmental damage and deforestation, as well as logging and illegal trapping of the species. So they are actually critically endangered. And again, the last report showed that only 100 Citron cockatoos are held in captivity in zoos worldwide. And I was lucky enough to find the one parrot farm in the United States that does have a small collection of these beauties. If you are one of the lucky people to come across one of these babies that are up for adoption, as long as you are aware that they do need a specific diet of fruits and nuts and a variety of vegetables, I would say grab these babies up because they are harder to find, but because they are an endangered species, their price is a bit higher, and their price range right now in the United States ranges from between $4,000 to $6,000. You might even find them a little bit higher depending on who you buy from and the quality of the breeder. But they are a little bit more expensive, but they are really worth it. They are sweet, sweet birds. Even when not trained right, I've realized and come across a few birds that were not really trained to be a social pet, but even in their more wild state, I have experienced them to be, again, a more subdued cockatoo, which is always awesome because it just tells me that when they are with the right breeder, when they are with the right parrot hand raiser, they can be an amazing pet. These babies are just beautiful and amazing, and they are a perfect cockatoo package for me. Now, this particular breeder that invited me to his farm in the United States is aware that there are between 500 and 5,000 birds remaining in the world. That means there are only between 500 to 5,000 Citron Cockatoos remaining in the world. Of course, there might be uncounted collections, but these are the counted collections. And I am excited to be invited to his farm to observe his breeding program of Citron Cockatoos. And stay tuned because my next video will be of the beautiful double yellowhead Amazon that he also has on his farm. Thank you for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and stay tuned for my next video.